So it's not Heidegger or it's not Immanuel Kant, it's Hegel. Hegel's dialectic was what I was talking about. And in summary, not quote by quote, but in summary, he goes to say that anybody who thinks that the idea of Hegel's dialectic is untrue or not proven enough, even they become users of the same dialectic. And my point is, you can see there that he appears to have reached conviction in what he postulated, so much so that he challenges the generations of philosophers that are yet to come to prove him wrong by kind of trapping them, Yeah, I don't mean to intrigue or bore or interject philosophy into the train of thought that I'm trying to present to you. But I want to express how subtracting the need to go back and forth, which almost always calls for ego to be inserted, because it automatically becomes about winning and losing, right? So I wanted to talk about how I subtracted both ego and most times the need to prove a point. But instead I just lead with inquiry. That itself is necessary and adequate to advance in what you think or how you think. So having said that, having subtracted the need to argue consistently and with practice, although I thought that it would lead me to have the ability to hold a healthy, happy conversation with whoever I'm conversing with, what it led to is a reality where nobody catches that. Everybody's just still trying to win. You have to understand how offensive and probably sinful I am to those people who use the therapy talk and the social media vocab and talk about growth and trajectory of their life and all that shit storm of ideas that they have absorbed from the world as is. Yeah. I have to shit on it. Although every second sentence I'm subtracting myself from a need to shit on it because I don't want to take that stance, because that's a stance I have to question that stance as well. So what has subtraction kind of done for me is it has put me in conflict with the world that is inherently and by life and by circumstances adhering to addition. More is seen as success. More fame, more things, more presence, more people, more materials, more self. This is what success has become. So, generally, when I'm saying about subtraction, people automatically assume, oh, that's complete loss of a will to live. So, what drives you? And I resign mostly when I'm asked that, because the moment I make people realize that it's just enough to live there, it's not somehow enough for them. They mask it and veil it under the fact that, oh, hey, but I gotta take care of so and so, I gotta do things, I gotta earn. And that's why I don't question it. But the thing is, they're questioning my subtraction in defense of their addition. I'm not asking them to defend their addition. And my personal journey has always been in wanting to be wrong so that I can obsessively work on the next thing, not to be right or wrong, but the next thing. But where I end up is often in a limbo. How much subtraction is okay? And this is not a spiritual lesson. This is a personal experiment. It's not requiring a need for it to be the doctrine. This is not about dogma. This is just an exploration of a possibility, of a alternate way of thinking that could possibly help humans somehow make their lives better without participating in a race. It's not a rebellion, it's not an ism, unless, much like any ism, the masses come towards. But I think that's it. Value gets subtracted. Things get lost in not just translation, it just becomes convenient narratives that people have to adopt to keep going. So, in that context, it's almost necessary to continually subtract. I will not ask another person to subtract. Whether I should, whether I could, does not pose itself, because I just will not do it. But it's an ideological principle that I'm willing to partake in scrutinizing it, partake in the scrutiny of, because I want to know if I'm missing something. The same passion is doing something that is so uber personal to people. This is uber personal to me. I have to understand, right? I have to No, and truth is, the greatest I have felt, the most good I felt is when I discover something in my thought process. And sometimes it breaks everything down so much. My reality shatters, but then that's so satisfying because then I'm in pursuit of something clearer, something more truer. I have to park so many of my own concepts to be able to partake in subtraction. Like the fact that there is no truth, like the fact that there's just one, like the fact that the necessity of multiple sides and multiple vantage points is at best humane and no more, and that hasn't really done well. So one of the projects in the subtraction project was developing languages, that a personal language, developing a completely new language for one's own purpose and the possibility that it be able to convey. And I'm trying to absorb this into my next project as well. I want to know how people speak if there's no language uh, common to them. And I'm willing to bet it's possible. I'm willing to bet it's just the conditioning of language and the thought process that has led people to believe that it's not possible without vocalized, verbalized sound required communication. Subtraction is probably a part of me now, but will always be a second skin to me. And that kind of constantly questions the reality of whether I should inhabit the world among the people with the living that they have. My subtraction is asking for seclusion, and I do not seek company in seclusion. What haven't I subtracted? I haven't subtracted. I have, but I haven't subtracted because it cannot be subtracted. You see, beyond a certain point, ego and life and living and thinking and communicating cannot be subtracted. And that's not me saying that very thing that everybody tells me you can't live like this. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say asceticism is not the answer. Sannyasa is not the answer. I'm looking for. These are premises that you are familiar with, which you are trying to use to understand what I'm doing. And in my wanting for you to understand, I would have to then explain parts of that in this so that you can best understand it, not the way I understand it, you can best understand it. And because of that, I found the need to subtract understanding. Found the need to not word it to a point that it is so clearly understood. Because it cannot be clearly understood. Nothing is ever clearly understood. So I'm asking to subtract, pushing towards such a reality where everything has to be constantly deciphered. Because the deciphering is then to favor understanding. So you don't necessarily understand it as it is. You have to understand it how it is. I don't know if I want to get into it, but think about science. Science is what we can understand with what we have. Before science, it was a religion. When the limits of understanding exist, we have to accept that it's okay to not understand. Not bullshit your way through things. Not attach an ego and argue the unbreakable layers that found a concept, because it's all, every concept and everything breaks the moment you start to question the measures and the devices that you have used to understand.